Ok?
Non so come ha fatto.
Volontà.
Possiamo iniziare, Ben?
Non è facile perché poi si è abituato a berla.
Bene. Buonasera a tutti e iniziamo la conferenza stampa.
Good evening, everyone. Let's start this matchday -1 press conference ahead of tomorrow night's match between Italy and Switzerland at the Stadio Olimpico with head coach Roberto Mancini and Leonardo Bonucci. We just wanted to remember Stefano Balducci, who was the assistant press officer for many years at the FIGC. We'd like to remember him. He passed away this morning, so our first thoughts go to him before we start. So now we can begin with the questions and answers. Maurizio Pizzoferrato, away you go.
Mi sentite?
Sì.
Can you hear me?
Allora, una domanda, intanto buongiorno, una domanda a Roberto.
Good evening to both of you. I have a question for Roberto.
La prima c'era appunto la tensione perché c'era l'esordio.
There was a lot of anxiety ahead of the opening game on matchday -1. This is now matchday -1 ahead of the second game. Is this similar to the first game, or are you more relaxed than you were ahead of the Turkey game? As for Leonardo, how much adrenaline do you still have in your body after everything you showed in that performance in the first match? No, it's only natural that you are slightly nervous because this is a very important match and it will be very tough, just as our opening game was. It depends a great deal on us, but of course, it's only natural that we're nervous because we're coming up against a good side. Good evening. As for me, adrenaline is ultimately what drives me to keep working hard day in, day out, to keep doing this job as a professional footballer. I have a lot of adrenaline and so too do my teammates. The win over Turkey has only boosted our stores of adrenaline and we can't wait to get out there tomorrow night.
Non vedo altre prenotazioni. Ecco, Paolo Tomaselli, Corriere della Sera.
Paolo Tomaselli, Corriere della Sera.
Volevo chiedere a Leo, ho sentito la
I
frase,
wanted to ask Leonardo, when you won your 100th cap, you said to your teammates that this was the greatest team spirit that you've ever encountered at international level. I wanted to ask you why this is the greatest team spirit you've encountered at international level. As for the head coach, you'll have seen Spain yesterday and you'll have seen some red shirts in the crowd yesterday, and it reminds me of Antonio Conte during Euro 2016 when he called on the fans to wear their blue shirts so that they could really colour the stadium with Italy's colours. Is this something you want to also do? Would you like to see more smatterings of blue in the stadium? This is the greatest team spirit I've encountered because there have been a number of players that have been part of this squad down the years. And at no time have there been any issues in the squad. That shows that when there are new entries, players coming into the squad, that shows that the squad is very cohesive, it's a very tight-knit group. And it's little wonder then that we're getting results. There's a nice mix of young players and older guys, if you will. We all get on very well. We enjoy spending time together, and it's been many years since we've all enjoyed being together at Coverciano together, and we hope that this can continue as long as possible. Of course, we'd be delighted if we could have more fans at the stadium, and that's only natural after such a long period playing behind closed doors. But it's also for us to actually make sure that we paint the pitch with blue come full time. That would be important.
E tu hai sempre detto dobbiamo divertirci.
You've always said we need to go out there and enjoy ourselves. Your players appear to have bought into that, Roberto, because there's a wonderful team spirit within the Azzurri camp. I also have a question for Leonardo. UEFA are always in the front line against racism. We're now used to seeing players taking the knee before kickoff. Wales and Switzerland both took the knee before their game. If this were to occur, have you thought about what you would do, whether or not you would indeed take the knee, or whether or indeed you would decide against it like some other countries? It's a football match. This is the European Championship and it's incredible, so I think you need to be happy, you need to have joy, you need to be delighted to go out there and do what we've been doing ever since we were kids. This is a wonderful stage as well, so I think it's impossible to be even happier than we are at this moment in time, and we of course then want to bring a lot of joy to our fans. Clearly, we are all against any form of racism and discrimination. At this moment in time, however, I don't think there has been a specific request from UEFA to actually conform. This is up to all national FAs, but we are very much standing against racism. What are you wary about ahead of the game against Switzerland? A question for both,
Sappiamo che la
please.
Svizzera è una squadra che ha sempre messo in difficoltà l'Italia.
We know that Switzerland are a team that have always caused problems for Italy. They're a side that are always in the top 10 or top 12 of the FIFA rankings and have been for a number of years. They've got experienced players, and Vladimir Petkovic, their head coach, is someone who knows Italian football inside out. They'll be a very difficult opposition. We need to produce a big performance. Just as the head coach said, Switzerland deserve the utmost respect. They have a number of quality players. They are an excellent team, and of course they have a very clearly identifiable style of play. They've been operating together for a number of years. We should give them the utmost respect, and above all, in the final third they have a number of match winners. They can decide a game from one moment to the next. We need to be very switched on.
Ok, buonasera. Allora per
Good evening. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Eccolo.
quando?
Ecco, scusa, ti avevo tolto la linea, vai.
Okay.
Sorry, I cut you off there. Where you go? For Mancini, I wondered if the only question mark was with regards to who could replace Florenzi. Will it be Rafael Toloi or Giovanni Di Lorenzo? And whether Ciro Immobile is now your first choice striker, whether he is edged ahead of Andrea Belotti. As for Bonucci, I wanted to ask the following. Has any country stood out in the opening matches of the Euro? Of course, France, Germany and Portugal are all still to play. Our team is made up of all starters, and as we've seen over the years, even when we make changes, things always go well. So the players all deserve credit for that because they're all top players. Of course, I do need to pick a starting 11 at kickoff, but if I were to change anything, I don't think it would necessarily alter our results. We'll try and produce our usual performance and do so well. Besides the teams that still need to play today, that will of course impress us because they're all three top countries, Germany, France and Portugal. They're all favourites to win the competition, but England have really stood out to me for the approach that they showed, the way that they were willing to work hard for one another, and the fact that they sought the 3 points. That's the team that's impressed me most thus far. David Anderson, Daily Express. David, do you have a question?
A question for Roberto, please. Roberto, your excellent performance on Friday, a lot of people are talking about you as favourites for Euro 2020. Do you accept that, or do you feel it's still too early?
Allora, se la fanno, lo dicono i bookmakers inglesi, la possiamo anche assumere.
If the English bookmakers are saying so, then we can of course accept that because they normally get it spot on, and we'd be delighted to see that, but there's still a long way to go.
Sion di RMC Sport.
Oui, bonjour Roberto. J'avais une question concernant Gianluigi.
Yes, thank you very much, Roberto. I have a question about Gianluigi. He's coming to PSG. Why do you think it would be a great idea for him to come to PSG? Why would this be a great move for him in his personal career?
Sinceramente, io al momento non so nulla e non saprei cosa.
To be honest, at this moment in time, I don't know anything, and I don't know what might come to pass over the coming days and weeks. Gigio, first and foremost, is a top goalkeeper. He's a lovely guy, and he will make his decision as and when is necessary. If he were to go to Paris, I think that would be an excellent move because they're a top side. I'd like to come back to what my colleague Fortuna said shortly before. If Florenzi's not fit, due to the fact that Switzerland are different side to Turkey, will you need to tweak something in terms of the personnel? It's almost the same answer. We have our style of play. Some of our players are slightly different to others, but of course the players know what they need to do out there, so it wouldn't change too much even if we had slightly different players in terms of characteristics, so I don't think it would make a huge difference.
Bonjour, Monsieur Mancini. Une question pour vous.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you, Mr. Mancini. I imagine that you watched the game between Switzerland and Wales. What are the lessons that you drew from this? What did you learn about Switzerland following their performance against Wales?
Beh, innanzitutto era la prima partita, faceva molto caldo, quindi chiaramente avranno un po'.
First and foremost, it was their opening game, it was very hot, so I think they struggled because of that, but we're very familiar with Switzerland. We also have them in our group for World Cup qualifying, so we know that they're a very good team, they know how to play football, and they're full of talented, skillful players, so we need to produce a perfect, flawless performance and make sure we don't make any mistakes.
Paolo? Ecco. L'audio.
Ecco. Vai. Una domanda per Bonucci, buongiorno intanto tutte e due.
I've got a question for Bonucci. Good evening to both. It's a bit of a blessing and a curse, all this excitement about Italy. Leo, you've played more than 100 times for Italy, so perhaps it's less so the case for you, but could this be a concern for the younger members of the squad, all of this excitement, this feel-good factor after the opening win? And if it is the case, what advice would you give your younger colleagues? Thank you. We've stressed this more than once over the last few days. Humility and keeping our feet on the ground really are key ingredients when it comes to producing a big performance like the one we showed against Turkey. We have come a long way and we have secured some important results. And we are going to start again from scratch. We've wiped the slate clean ahead of this next match. I'm sure that the squad will continue to do so right until the end of the tournament. We are a very solid, united, positive group of players, and all this does is it helps the younger members of the squad to approach these games with the right amount of nervousness, but also the right attitude when it comes to getting the right result. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes.
Buon pomeriggio sia a Bonucci sia Mr. Mancini.
Good afternoon both to Leonardo Bonucci and head coach Roberto Mancini. I had a couple of questions for the head coach. The first is about Xherdan Shaqiri. You coached him at Inter, and from a footballing perspective, perhaps things didn't work out that well. Why do you think that was? And do you think Xherdan is the key threat for Switzerland? The second question was your memories of the match in 1993 when we beat Italy. That was the last time that Switzerland came out on top against the Azzurri. You were there. As I said earlier on, games against Switzerland are always very difficult. That's why we need to be careful, because we never win easily, and occasionally you do risk conceding goals, especially in the here and now. It's a good team. As for Xherdan, I think he's a great player. I think he did what he needed to at Inter, but unfortunately Inter was still rebuilding at that moment in time. He went to Bayern Munich. He returned there after his spell at Inter, but I think Shaqiri is one of the best number 10s in Europe.
Stefano Salandin, Tutto Sport. Stefano?
Stefano, are you there?
Siamo Andrea Santoni, Corriere dello Sport, allora.
Salve, ecco qua. Volevo chiedere a
Good evening.
Mr. Mancini.
I wanted to ask Roberto Mancini the following. Besides tonight's match, I think we've basically seen all of the countries involved in Euro 2020 thus far. Roberto, you've always been very confident, and I wanted to understand the following. Based on what you've seen thus far, because I'm sure you've watched a lot of football over the last few days, has your optimism even grown based on what you've seen? Are you even more convinced that this Italy side can ultimately go all the way to London? Not the last 16, I mean get to London and Wembley on the 11th of July for the final. If we're to make it to the final on the 11th of July, we need to first win our last 16 game. I think that's only natural. But tonight, the three of the favourites to win the Euro will be in action tonight, based on what we've seen in recent years. So we need to wait for Italy, France, Germany and Portugal. But I believe we are a great team. I think we can only improve, and we'll see what happens.
Paolo Pacchioni, abbiamo ancora 2 minuti, quindi non riusciremo a soddisfare tutte le richieste. Paolo Pacchioni,
We've only got 2 minutes remaining, so we won't be able to satisfy everyone's request. Question for Roberto Mancini. That great win over Turkey, can that give you a boost, or could that actually mean that you start to settle or rest on your laurels and the players might become a bit complacent? No, it was a tough match. In the first half, we couldn't break the deadlock. But then we were able to score after the break, and they opened up a little bit. But we are delighted to have started with a win and got those 3 points under our belt, but that doesn't mean anything, because we still need to win our next match and the one after that, if possible. That's the route that we need to take forward. We need to try and give it 100%.
Niente, e allora passiamo a Mirko Calemme di Diario.
Have we got Stefano back? No, okay.
Mi sentite?
Sì.
Can you hear me? Yes. A question for the head coach. Could you give us the latest on Marco Verratti? How's he doing? Just like an update on that. And Leonardo, I saw you a couple of years ago, and you said to me that it was a lot more fun and enjoyable to join up with the national team. You spoke about a squad that are now like a family. Besides the footballing principles, the principles of play that we've seen, how have things changed under Mancini over the last 2 years? Marco has been working very well. He's been training with the team for the last 3 days. He's looking good so far, and we'll see tomorrow night whether or not we can pick him on the bench or whether we'll have to wait for our next match. But we're very optimistic over Marco Verratti. I think over the last few years, just as you've said, we really have discovered the desire to be part and parcel of the national team. The head coach deserves credit for that because he's shown calmness, optimism and confidence in the younger and older members of the squad. We came from the lowest ebb in Italian football history, and the head coach has really given us a helping hand. The fact that we are now a tight-knit squad is only the consequence, the result of the fact that we all get on very well, and that's thanks to the helping hand of the head coach and his staff. Thank you very much, everyone. The first 15 minutes of our training session will begin at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.